making love sober. So in any event, he did the movie. Then we went back. I went back to L.A. Oh, and my home burned. I was wiped out, and I had no insurance. And he didn't help me, and his lawyer didn't help me, and it was what's called a touch that the landlord collected on my stuff. So I moved to New York, and then I was on the cover of Parade magazine. He sent me to a man called Walter Anderson, who's the editor, and Walter liked me and put me on the cover, and that was a great boon to my career. And all this, now Flash was coming out. Simon & Schuster was publishing Flash, and so it was a very heady time for me. And I had a book party at Elaine's where I had met him, and he said Norris was in Arkansas. She had to see her parents. Well, it was a setup because he wanted to come to the party he was proud of me. I was like his, in a way, daughter, or, his student. He was my mentor, I was his student, and so he came to the party, and Heather was there, and there were pictures taken with Heather and Norman, and it was lovely. Then in '88, I started interviewing him a whole lot for all these magazines. I don't know where to start, but I think the Power of Sex one is funny. Because I asked him about mistresses. I think that's revelatory. If I can find it. Let me just read the beginning. I think he was so... I've always had low self-esteem, and still it haunts me, and that's what one drinks over. And the core of alcoholism, one of them is low self-esteem. So I would have to have him edit my interviews with him, which he did with the L one. But this one was 5,000 words or 10,000 words, and I didn't let him touch it, and I turned it into the magazine, and they published every word. And it was a tour de force, and he really let it rip. So they just wanted the topic of sex. So I asked him here, what's the difference between men and women? And he said there may be very little difference at this point in time, Mailer laughs. If you're talking about middle-class, urban, professional intellectuals who go to offices and work, the difference between them is 2 on a scale of 100. I don't know where he gets these things. Do you think, generally speaking, men can separate sex and love while women have a problem in this area? Yes. Why are you laughing? Because I'm a man. Do you take advantage of women because of it? I've never taken advantage of a woman in my life. Of course, I'm famous for bad memory. Are you drinking water? Yes, ma'am. Are men fragile? Well, they are. They're more fragile than women. They're physically stronger, but they're psychically more delicate. Of course, that may not be true now that men and women are only 2% different. Why are men's egos so fragile, or seem to be? Are we talking about old-fashioned men and women before women's lib came down the pike? I'm not talking about that time. You are. Well, I think there's a huge change in the personality of the young. Kids today are just not the way they used to be. 20 years ago, a guy was a guy and a girl was a girl. They had a totally different attitude about sex. Today, it's a wonder sex survives at all. If I were young today, I don't think I'd ever have sexual intercourse. It's just too loaded. Too many things go wrong with it. In return for a little pleasure, you can get a fatal disease. That's not a good equation. And in return for flaunting your ego a bit, you can be accused of being a sexist, a monster, an abuser, a womanizer. Life is complicated enough without worrying about that kind of abuse. You didn't answer. Why are men fragile with their egos? One simple difference. No man ever gets an erection without having his body and psyche back of it to some extent. No man can make love without some desire, but women can. I don't want to belabor it, but don't you think men's egos are more fragile these days, possibly because women are realizing that at a younger age that men can have sex and not become emotionally involved, and maybe women are nailing them on it? A man used to be able to feel a certain male satisfaction in a one-night stand. he could walk away from it. He could despise the woman, but his ego could be reinforced, so he could feel good about himself. He might have liked the woman, but that was neither here nor there. The fact that was that he had scored the one-night stand. I remember 6 years ago I made love to a girl 6 minutes after I met her. It was at the end of a dance, and I took her across the street into some bushes. I was so proud of that. Now the sex wasn't all that good, but I was proud of it. It gave my ego the equivalent of political standing. Very few men could do that, I thought, and I was proud of myself. Well, how do you feel about a woman who can do that? I don't have any judgment on it. In fact, there are probably more women who can do that now than in the old days. If men are going to say to, says the woman, then I'm going to. Again, I repeat to you, there's only 2% difference